Hi everyone, I'm Dan from JazzComposersPresent.com, an online space where composers, musicians, and listeners come together to celebrate the music we love. I'm joined today by Jim McNeely, pianist, composer, arranger, chief conductor of the Frankfurt Radio HR Big Band, and composer in residence with the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra. Jim is here to show us how to write interesting and effective vamps.
Thanks, Dan. Right, today I'd like to talk a little bit about vamps. A vamp, of course, typically functions as a holding pattern in a piece. Used as an introduction or interlude or ending, it creates a pause in the harmonic motion that usually results in a feeling of anticipation. Something's going to happen here. Used as the basis of a song itself, the static nature of the vamp draws attention to the upper movement in the melody and the harmony. And also the vamp can be transposed and reharmonized to give a greater sense of motion. And then finally, as the basis of a solo form, the static nature of the vamp necessitates the use of other parameters to build tension, like dynamics, rhythm, and chromaticism. So I'm going to talk about vamps in three of my compositions. First, let's look at Absolution. This was recorded in 1997 with the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra, and Rich Perry is the tenor saxophone soloist. The opening melody is spun out over a 3-bar vamp in F. That's at the top staff of this page. And then it changes to a similar vamp over E. That's the second system. Now, these are what I call the typical variety. There are 7 rhythmic hits and 7 pitches, if you look at the lower part of the 5th unit. So let's play the example of the vamp and see how it lines up. Okay, and it goes on for quite some time, and then switches to E, the second vamp there on the page. But we're going to go ahead to Rich's solo now. There I changed the vamp to what I call an offset vamp. If we look at the third system there's a rhythmic pattern. It's 5 hits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But there are 6 pitches to the cycle. So I decided to arrange them so that we had 6 rhythmic units. That's indicated in the next measure. There are the next measures. There's whole notes in the in each measure. So each one represents the 5 rhythmic hits and the way the pitches are laid out. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it takes a total of 6 cycles to get back to the downbeat. And since each one is a 2-bar rhythmic cycle, it's a 12-bar pattern. It's interesting, whenever I've played this with the Vanguard Orchestra so many times, inevitably somebody comes up to me and says, "What meter are you in under Rich's solo?" And they're surprised to hear when I say it's in 4/4. What happens is we want to hear that low E, especially on the bass. It's the low E string, It really resonates, and we want to make that the downbeat. But if you look at the pattern here in the last 3 last 3 lines of this system, the E is always shifting its location, so it sounds like it's in some other kind of meter. Can be kind of disconcerting for the soloist the first time they play it. And usually I tell them, don't even try to find one, just try to go with what you're feeling. And then finally the reference scale changes later on. And I said, once you hear the thing change, then you know where you are. So it was designed to really create this feeling of not quite knowing where we are, but let's plow ahead anyway. And Rich really owns this piece as far as I'm concerned. Okay, let's go to another composition. Now, this is an earlier piece of mine. It's called Rain's Dance. It's from my first album, also the same name. It's got Larry Schneider on tenor saxophone, Mike Richmond on bass, and Bob Mirigliano on the drums. It was recorded in 1979. So this, if you look at the top system of this page, it's based on the fact that, and it gets a little nerdy here, but stay with me. 4 bars of 4/4 contains 32 eighth notes. So they can be combined into 10 groups of 3 and 1 group of 2, which I call the hiccup. So if you sing the pattern, it's boom, bo doom, do doom, do doom, do doom, do hiccup, boom, do doom, do doom, do doom, do doom, boom, boom. So so let's listen to, first we're going to hear how it sounds in the original recording. Yeah, so that's how the basic thing works. Now, for the purposes of not on this presentation, but when I originally wrote the thing, I played with a lot of different placements of that hiccup. So we have a few further reworkings here. Here's the first one where the hiccup is at the very beginning. Now here's the next one in which the hiccup is at the very end. Okay, good. Now you can put it anywhere else in the sequence. So the next one, the hiccup is it's on the 4th beat of the first bar. And then finally we have another version, a possible one, in which the hiccup is somewhere else toward the end of the 3rd measure. And that's just some of the samples, some of the examples, and then we can string them together. So I've strung them now together into a 16-bar version of it. It's 4 different placements of the hiccup, right in the middle, right at the very beginning, right at the very end, and then at the middle of the 2nd measure. Let's hear that. So there are a lot of possibilities. They can be strung together in all kinds of ways, moving the hiccup around. And you can change the scale reference, say from A minor to A7 sharp 11, or A Lydian, A Phrygian, blah, blah, blah. Now you start to transpose the pattern and invert it. You can go on for quite a while. The possibilities are just about endless. Now we'll go to the 3rd example, the 3rd piece. This is called 4 Moves. It's something I wrote for Joe Lovano in 1994 with the WDR Big Band in Cologne. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the recording anymore. A few years ago, I donated a lot of old scores and recordings to the William Patterson University Living Archive. So if you're floating around Wayne, New Jersey one day, you might stop in and say hi and check out some of my stuff in there, along with a lot of other great musicians. But I've put together these MIDI samples of what I call a progressive vamp. In this case, there's 7 rhythmic hits and a cycle of 7 pitches, but in each measure, the rhythm pattern starts on the next note of the series. So in other words, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, and so forth, like I've got laid out on that page here. So here's just a musical sample of the original. Okay, so then I thought, what if I follow each measure with a tritone transposition of itself? So now we have version 2. Okay, and then I decided let's retrograde or reverse the rhythm of each response. So we have the next version. And then there are, of course, many other possibilities, but the last one I've decided on here is what if each measure starts on the next successive beat of the original pattern, but each tritone response starts on the next previous beat of the original rhythmic pattern. So it sounds something like this. And there you go. I know that this doesn't make life easy for the bass player, but luckily the bass player in this project was Dieter Ilg, and he really ate it up. So if you really put your mind to it, you can create a lot of interesting vamps that go beyond the traditional 2 or 4 measure patterns. Nothing wrong with that, but you can also take it further. And there's really no rules to this. Just let your imagination guide you.
Thanks for watching today's mini lesson. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos in the comment section down below. To watch our full-length events and participate in live Q&As with our presenting artists, head over to jazzcomposerspresent.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.